Commander stepped out of the landing shuttle and looked at the human research station with complete certainty. The species had visited hundreds of alien worlds, studied thousands of alien cultures, and seen every type of technology and defense system in the known galaxy. This station was old. Its walls showed damage from solar radiation. Its defense towers were from a generation at least 10 years past. The humans who built this place were trying hard, but they were trying with the equipment of a species that had only recently learned to leave their own planet. Was a commander with 40 years of service to the collective. His gray skin marked him as a veteran. His 4 arms moved with perfect control as he walked down the landing ramp. They had perfected the science of military strategy. They did not feel emotion. They did not make choices based on instinct. Every decision had ever made was based on calculation and logic. This was why they led the galaxy's defense against the void collective threat. This was why other species asked for help when danger came. The humans were waiting for him at the station entrance. Saw 5 of them standing in a line. They wore military uniforms that were clean but not as advanced as tactical gear. One of them stepped forward. He was tall for a human and had the bearing of a commander. His name was Captain David Harrison and had read the file on this human. Harrison had led defensive operations against pirates. He had made strategic decisions that saved lives. But he had also made choices that were not the most logical option. This was what they always noticed about humans. They chose wrong sometimes, even when they knew a better choice existed. Commander, Harrison said, his voice was steady. We are honored to have support for our station. His 4 arms made a gesture of acknowledgement. This was the way of greeting other species. Captain Harrison, I have reviewed the situation at your location. The threat from the Void Collective is significant. However, your defensive capabilities are minimal. The logical choice is to evacuate your personnel and abandon the station. The human commander did not react with fear. He simply nodded as if had made a comment about the weather. That is a possibility, but we have another choice in mind. Come inside and we will show you what we have here. Followed Harrison into the station. The corridors were narrow. The lighting was dimmer than ships. The air smelled strange to his advanced senses. Humans released chemicals through their skin when they moved around. Found this inefficient, but he said nothing. He simply observed. Harrison led him to the central briefing room. There were 3 other humans there. One was Doctor, a scientist who had been at this station for 6 years. She was older than most humans had seen. Her hair was white, and her hands showed the wear of hard work. She looked at without any of the fear that most species showed when meeting her for the first time. This was interesting. The other 2 were younger. One was named Brooks, an engineer. The other was Lisa Yang, also an engineer. They were both looking at displays that showed information about ship designs and weapon systems. Commander, Doctor said, standing from her seat, I am the chief scientist here. We have been working on a project that might change the situation regarding the Void Collective. Listened. Doctor explained that the humans had been studying Void Collective energy signatures. They had discovered a weakness in the way the Void Collective ships generated power. The humans had built a weapon that could exploit this weakness. The weapon required an energy source that was dangerous to produce. The calibration process was dangerous, but if the weapon worked, it could destroy Void Collective vessels. The probability of success is low, said. It was not a question. It was a statement based on physics and known data. Very low, Brooks said. He was not angry or defensive. He simply agreed with this assessment. Then the logical choice is to abandon this project, said. To evacuate this station and preserve human lives. Captain Harrison turned to face directly. Commander, we have received reports that the Void Collective fleet will arrive at this station in 17 hours. We have time to finish the weapon. We have time to test it. And we have a chance to hurt them in a way they are not expecting. The chance is minimal, said. Yes, Harrison agreed. It is, but we cannot leave this place empty. We cannot leave this research behind, and we cannot allow the Void Collective to take another station without a fight. Did not respond immediately. He processed the situation. From a purely logical standpoint, Harrison was wrong. The evacuation was the correct choice. The preservation of human life was more important than the destruction of one Void Collective fleet. The data was clear. The numbers did not support Harrison's plan, but had traveled to many human worlds. He had observed human behavior for decades, and there was something about the way these humans stood together in this briefing room that made wonder if the calculations were missing something. Doctor approached. She did not show fear. She showed determination. "Commander, my team has worked on this weapon for 3 years. We know the risks. We are choosing this path." Lisa Yang was still looking at the displays. She said, "The station has enough power to run the weapon. We have the equipment. We have the knowledge. We just need the time." Brooks added, "And we need people who are willing to take the risk of being here when it is finished." Harrison said, "We are that team. We are the people who will make this work." Looked at each of them. He calculated the outcome of this decision. He assessed the danger. He measured the probability of death. All the numbers told him that these humans were making a choice that would end badly for many of them. Then Doctor said something that could not process immediately. "We know you have the option to leave, Commander, but we are asking you to stay. We are asking you to fight beside us." Had fought beside many species, had worked with alien warriors and alien commanders, but had never fought beside a group of beings who were choosing to stand and defend when the logical choice was to run. "I will stay," said. The words came from speaking unit but did not remember making the choice to say them. The decision was not logical. The decision was not based on calculation. This was something new for the commander. Harrison nodded. "Then we have 17 hours to prepare. Doctor will show you our weapon designs. We need your tactical experience. We need your knowledge of Void Collective fleet patterns. We need your help if we are going to make this work." "And if it fails?" asked. "Then we will have failed together," Harrison said, "and that is better than running." Followed Doctor to the laboratory. The other humans were already moving, preparing their station for the coming attack. They worked without fear. They worked with the knowledge that many of them would likely not leave this station alive, and they worked anyway. In that moment, something changed inside the commander. Did not have a word for it, did not understand it, but something in this calculated mind began to shift, something that the head believed impossible was happening. The humans were teaching what strength really meant. The hours moved quickly, worked alongside the human team in the laboratory. Doctor showed the weapon design. The weapon was built from human technology and concepts that the humans had studied. It was not advanced by standards, but it was clever. It took a weakness that the humans had identified and turned it into a tool that could pierce Void Collective armor. Brooks worked at the central station, making adjustments to the power systems. His hands moved quickly and carefully. He did not make mistakes. Observed that humans had a capacity for precise work, even under extreme pressure. Lisa Yang worked beside him, checking his work and preparing the secondary systems. They did not speak much. They did not waste time with unnecessary words. They simply worked. The weapon required an energy core that had to be calibrated in a specific way. The calibration process involved running the core through a chamber where radiation levels were dangerously high. No one had ever survived the calibration process before. Theory suggested the radiation exposure would be fatal to any living being. "The calibration requires a person in the chamber," Doctor said to and Captain Harrison. They were in a separate room, reviewing the final stages of preparation. "The core has to be adjusted by hand. We cannot do it remotely. The core has to be positioned and rotated in a specific pattern. It takes approximately 12 minutes. The radiation in that chamber will reach lethal levels. Process this information. Then the person who enters will die." "Most likely," Doctor said. She did not sound upset. She sounded like a scientist stating a fact. The radiation exposure will cause cellular damage. The exposure will damage the nervous system and the heart. The person will probably be unconscious within 10 minutes. Death will follow within the hour. Captain Harrison asked, "But if someone does it, the weapon will be ready." "If someone does it," Doctor said, "the weapon will be fully calibrated and ready to fire." Calculated the situation. One human life for the possibility of destroying 2 or 3 void collective vessels. From a mathematical standpoint, it was a logical trade. The destruction of 2 or 3 enemy ships could save thousands of lives. The death of one human was the acceptable cost. But something in its new understanding of humans made this calculation feel wrong. Harrison said, "We have time. Let me think about this. Who is trained for the calibration?" Brooks said from the other room, "I am. I have the training and the experience. And Lisa knows how to run the systems while I am in the chamber." Harrison said, "You are not going in that chamber." "Someone has to," said. He turned from his station and looked at the captain and the commander. "The weapon does not work without the calibration, and the calibration requires someone who knows how to do it correctly. That someone is me." Lisa Yang said, "I am coming with you." "Absolutely not," said. "I am coming," Lisa said firmly. "The secondary calibration requires someone in the chamber with you. You cannot do both the primary and secondary adjustments alone. You need me there. I am trained for it. I will be in the chamber with you." Watch this exchange with interest. These humans were volunteers for a process that would end their lives. They were not being forced. No one was ordering them to enter the radiation chamber. They were choosing it. They were choosing to die. "We will wait until the last possible moment before the calibration," Harrison said. "We still have time. Let me continue trying to find another solution." The next 12 hours passed with the humans working on alternatives. They tried remote systems. They tried robotic solutions. Nothing worked. The core required human manipulation. The precision required human judgment and intuition. Doctor explained this to while they reviewed the data. "Our robots are not fine enough," she said. "The calibration requires understanding what feels right. Has done precision work his entire career. He understands through experience what the correct position should feel like. No machine can do that. No algorithm can replace that knowledge." Said, "Then you are asking humans to die so that your weapon can function." "No," Doctor said. She looked directly at with eyes that showed no fear but absolute certainty. "And Lisa are choosing to do this. They are choosing to take this risk because they understand something that I do not think understand." "Explain," said. Doctor sat down. She was old and tired, but her voice was strong. "Humans know fear, Commander. We feel fear. When looks at that radiation chamber, he is afraid. He knows the danger. He knows the probability of survival. But humans have learned something important. We have learned that fear is not the same as being controlled by fear. Is afraid, and he is still choosing to enter that chamber. Lisa is afraid, and she is still choosing to go with him. Process this information. This is illogical." "No," Doctor said. "It is logic of a different kind. It is not the logic of survival. It is the logic of meaning. And Lisa are giving their lives meaning by using their deaths to save others. That is a choice that only humans understand." "They understand sacrifice," said. "Do you?" Doctor asked. "Do your people choose sacrifice, or do your people make calculated decisions that happen to result in sacrifice?" Did not answer. Could not answer. The question struck something inside the commander that had never been questioned before. That evening Brooks came to find. The human engineer was calm. He was not shaking. He was not showing the signs of fear that had seen in other species. "I want you to know something," said. "I am going into that chamber tomorrow. Lisa is going with me, and we both know that we will probably die in there. I want you to understand why we are doing this." Said nothing, simply waited for the human to continue. "We are doing it because these people are our team," said. "We have worked together, we have become friends, and we have learned something that makes death less important than letting them down. That is why we are going. That is why we are not afraid. We are afraid, yes, but the fear does not matter. What matters is that we are not abandoning the people we care about." Looked at this human engineer who was about to die, tried to feel what the human was feeling, tried to understand this choice, and for the first time in 4 decades of service, felt something other than the cold certainty of logic. Felt fear, but it was not fear for his own survival. It was fear of losing these humans who had somehow, in the space of one day, become something more than just another species that needed protection. It was fear of what would happen if they failed. The alert came at dawn. The Void Collective fleet had entered the detection range of the station's sensors. There were 6 ships. They moved as a unit through space with the precision that made the Void Collective so dangerous. They did not stop. They did not attempt communication. They simply came to destroy. Captain Harrison activated the station's defense systems. The older weapons came online. They were not powerful enough to stop the incoming fleet, but they could damage it. They could slow it. They could buy time. Moved to the command center with Harrison. The room was filled with humans working at various stations. Cross was at the communications station. He was young and nervous, but his hands were steady as he managed the incoming data streams. Other humans worked at weapon stations, at shield generators, at power distribution systems. They all knew what was coming. They all knew that many of them would probably not survive the next few hours. No one fled. No one requested evacuation. They simply took their positions and waited. "The weapon?" Harrison asked. Doctor's voice came through the communication system. She was in the laboratory. "The calibration is ready, and Lisa are preparing to enter the chamber now." Harrison said, "Do it." The first laser strikes hit the station's shields. The lights flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Void Collective was trying to overwhelm the station's defenses through sheer force. It was working. The shields would not hold for long. Calculated the situation. The Void Collective would break through the shields in approximately 40 minutes. They would breach the station's hull in approximately 55 minutes. They would kill every human on the station in approximately 1 hour. Unless the weapon was ready. And Lisa entered the radiation chamber, watched the readings from the laboratory feed that appeared on the command center display. The radiation levels started to rise. Vital signs were steady. Lisa's vital signs were steady. They were working. They were moving through the calibration sequence with precision. Cross made an error. His hands shook as he was transferring data from one system to another, and he accidentally redirected a secondary power flow. Alarms sounded. The weapons station to his left went dark. His face showed panic. This was the moment where most species would have collapsed. This was the moment where fear would have overwhelmed the human's ability to function. But Harrison did not curse. He did not blame. He simply moved from his commander's chair and went to stand beside the young communications officer. "What did you do?" Harrison asked. His voice was calm. "I redirected power," said, and his voice was shaking. "I made a mistake. I am sorry. I am so sorry." "Can you fix it?" Harrison asked. Looked at his systems. He said, "Yes, I can fix it." "Then fix it," Harrison said. "We do not have time for blame. We have time for solutions. Fix it." His hands moved. The fear was still there, but it was not controlling him anymore. The power was restored. The weapons station came back online. No time was wasted on punishment or anger. The humans simply moved forward. Realized something in that moment. This was different from how operated. Calculated efficiency. Removed problems. Did not stop to help a struggling team member continue working. But the humans did. The humans understood that one person's mistake was everyone's problem and everyone's responsibility to fix. The Void Collective fleet accelerated. The assault intensified. Station shields were failing. The main reactor was under strain. The humans worked faster. In the radiation chamber, and Lisa were halfway through the calibration. The radiation levels were climbing toward the lethal threshold. His vital signs showed elevated stress, but he continued working. Lisa moved beside him, helping with the secondary calibration. They were precise. They were focused. They were dying, but they were not stopping. Felt something rising in his chest. 4 arms clenched. Breathing became faster. This was unusual this was not normal. This was emotional response. Realized that what was feeling was dread. They had a word for it, but the word did not appear often in vocabulary. Did not normally experience dread, experienced analysis, experienced logic, but this was different. This was fear of loss. This was dread of failure. This was the understanding that something important was about to be taken away. 3 void collective vessels broke through the outer defense perimeter. They were approaching the station directly. The main shields were failing. The secondary shields would last only minutes. The calibration is complete, Doctor's voice came through the communication. Is collapsing. His heart rate is dropping. We are losing him. Lisa, Harrison asked. Lisa is unconscious. Her respiratory system is shutting down. The radiation exposure was exactly what we calculated it would be. Harrison's face showed nothing, but saw the human's hands grip the edge of the command station so hard that his knuckles turned white. Can the weapon fire? Harrison asked. The weapon is ready, Doctor said. The calibration is perfect. It will fire. Harrison looked at. For a moment, no words were exchanged. The 2 commanders simply understood what had happened. 2 humans had entered a chamber knowing they would not leave it alive. They had done it anyway. Fire the weapon, Harrison said. The energy surge that left the station was unlike anything had ever seen. The human weapon focused the station's power output into a single concentrated strike. The beam was not as advanced as weapons, but it was focused. It was precise. It was exactly what the humans had promised it would be. The first void collective vessel was struck directly. Its shields failed immediately. Its hull ruptured. Secondary explosions tore the ship apart. The second vessel was hit milliseconds later. It was destroyed in the same way. The third vessel managed to dodge the weapon's targeting system, but it was damaged enough that its power generators failed. The ship was crippled. The remaining 3 void collective vessels stopped their assault. They calculated the situation. They saw what had happened, and they began to retreat. The humans in the command center did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They looked at their commander, and Harrison looked at his people. Begin medical recovery teams, Harrison said. And Lisa are still alive. Get them to the medical bay. But everyone in the command center knew the truth. The humans had made the choice to enter that chamber knowing it would kill them. The choice had been made. The weapon had been fired, and the station was going to survive because of that sacrifice. Watched the human commander move toward the laboratory. Understood now what Doctor had tried to explain. Humans did not stop feeling fear. Humans did not transcend emotion. Humans understood that some things were more important than survival. And humans chose those things anyway. The medical bay was filled with human doctors and medical technicians. Brooks was on one of the medical beds. His body showed the damage of severe radiation exposure. His skin was burned. His breathing was weak, but he was still alive. Lisa Yang was on another bed. The radiation had stopped her heart twice on the way to the medical bay. The medical team had started her heart again. Now she was barely breathing, and her vital signs were declining steadily. Doctor stood in the medical bay and watched her team die. Her face showed pain, but her hands did not shake. She was a scientist. She understood what had happened. The laws of physics did not negotiate. The radiation had been lethal, and now the price was being paid. Captain Harrison entered the medical bay. He walked to his bed and stood beside the dying engineer. His eyes were closed. His breathing came in short, shallow gasps. Harrison said quietly, "I am here." His eyes opened slightly. He saw his captain. He saw the man who had sent him into the radiation chamber, said nothing at first. Then his mouth moved and words came out that were barely audible. "Did it work?" asked. "It worked," Harrison said. "Two void collective vessels are destroyed. We are safe. Because of what you did, we are safe." Closed his eyes again. A small expression that might have been a smile appeared on his face. Had lived long enough to know that his death had meant something. In the context of his life, that was the only thing that mattered. Stood in the corner of the medical bay. The commander was not meant to be here. This was a human moment, a human space, but could not leave. Was feeling something that they had never felt before in the presence of death. Was not feeling analysis. Was not feeling logical assessment of the situation. Was feeling genuine dread. Was feeling the weight of watching courage transform into sacrifice, transform into death. The medical technician said, "His heart rate is dropping. We are losing him." Harrison took his hand. The human engineer could no longer speak. His body was shutting down. The radiation poisoning had destroyed too much, had known this would happen, had chosen it anyway. Brooks died with his captain holding his hand. The monitor showed the flat line. The vital signs dropped to nothing. The engineer who had worked for 3 years on the weapon design, who had volunteered for the radiation chamber, who had given everything to protect his team, was gone. Harrison did not move. He simply stood there and held the hand of a dead man. No words came. No tears fell from the human's eyes, but something in the captain's stillness showed the depth of what had been lost. Then Harrison moved to Lisa Yang's bed. Lisa was still alive, but barely. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes were closed. Her body was in the process of shutting down the same way his body had shut down. "Lisa," Harrison said, "can you hear me?" Lisa's eyes did not open, but her lips moved slightly. Her fingers twitched. She could hear. Some part of her was still present. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten," Harrison said. "What you did today will save lives, not just this station, but humans everywhere. You have changed the course of the war against the Void Collective. You have made a difference." Lisa's breathing became even shallower. The medical team moved to the head of her bed. They knew what was coming. The human did not die alone. Her captain was there. Her doctor was there. Her team was there. And in the last moment when Lisa Yang's breathing stopped and her heart ceased to beat, she knew that her death had purpose. Doctor came to Harrison when Lisa was gone. The old scientist placed a hand on the captain's shoulder. No words passed between them. Words were not necessary. Both of them understood what had been lost. Both of them understood what had been gained. Stepped forward. The commander approached Harrison. What was about to say had never been said to a human species before. What was feeling had never been felt in the presence of such loss. "Captain Harrison," said. This voice was steady, but something had changed in it. "I came to this station believing that humanity was a species that did not understand the value of strategic sacrifice. I believed that humans were driven by emotion rather than logic. I was wrong." Harrison looked at the commander. He waited. "Brooks and Lisa Yang made a choice," said. "They chose to enter the radiation chamber knowing that death was the outcome. They chose to die so that this station would live. This is not illogical. This is the highest form of logic. This is the logic of choosing what matters more than survival." Those 4 arms made a gesture that was almost a human gesture of respect. "I felt something today that a rarely experiences. I felt dread. I did not feel dread because I feared our failure. I felt dread because I feared losing the humans who were willing to lose everything. That is what I want you to know, Captain. Your species has taught me something important. Your species has shown me that strength is not always measured in weapons or tactical advantage. Sometimes strength is measured in the willingness to sacrifice." Harrison said nothing for a long moment. Then he said, "Thank you, Commander. That means more to me than you probably understand." Over the next hours, the station began its repairs. The damage from the Void Collective assault was extensive, but the station would survive. The defenses would be rebuilt. The weapon could be built again now that the design was proven. The central plaza of the research station had a memorial area, a place where the humans honored those who had died in service to their mission. Captain Harrison ordered that a memorial be placed there for Brooks and Lisa Yang. The memorial would show their names and the date of their sacrifice. Doctor and the other engineers went to the memorial that evening. They stood silently before the two names. They were grieving. They were mourning the loss of their friends, but they were also honoring the choice that those friends had made. Watched from a distance, the commander understood now that this was something important to humans. Humans did not forget their dead. Humans did not move past sacrifice and pretend that it had not happened. Humans remembered. Humans felt the weight of it. Humans used that weight to remind themselves why the sacrifice had mattered. In all of history, there had never been a memorial that honored sacrifice in this way. There had never been a place that gathered people together to feel loss collectively. There had never been a recognition that death could create meaning. Realized that this was the moment when the species finally understood what made humanity different from every other species in the galaxy. It was not strength of arms or advanced technology. It was the capacity to choose what was right, even when the cost was death, and then to remember that choice forever. The repair operations took 3 weeks. The Void Collective did not return. Reports came from other human stations and from outposts that the Void Collective fleet that had assaulted the research station had been detected fleeing toward the outer systems. The humans had damaged them more severely than was initially believed. The fleet was withdrawing to repair its ships. The weapon had worked exactly as Lisa had calculated it would work. The design was being sent throughout human space. Other stations were beginning to build their own versions. The weapon that had cost 2 human lives was becoming a standard defense against the Void Collective threat. The sacrifice was multiplying outward, affecting thousands of lives across dozens of human worlds. Remained at the station. The commander did not return to space. Harrison had asked to stay as a permanent liaison, had agreed. This was an unusual decision for the collective did not station its commanders at human posts, but was no longer simply following protocol, was following something else, was following the understanding that had been born in the radiation chamber and at the memorial. On the day before was scheduled to transmit a full report to the collective. Harrison asked to meet with in a private location. They met in Doctor's laboratory. The old scientist was not there. The space was quiet except for the hum of various machines. "I want you to help me with a message," Harrison said. He held a data pad with text already written on it. "This message goes to every human military commander in our space. This message goes to the collective. And this message goes to every species in the known galaxy." Read the message. It described the weapon. It described how the weapon had been created. It described Brooks and Lisa Yang and their decision to enter the radiation chamber. The message did not hide the sacrifice. The message did not minimize the death. The message simply stated the truth. Humanity had created a weapon that changed the balance of power against the Void Collective. Humanity had done this through the willingness of 2 of its members to die in service to the mission. And humanity was offering this weapon design to any species that wanted to fight against the Void Collective threat. "This message will change everything," said. "Yes," Harrison said, "I know." "They will see this as weakness," said. "The calculate that showing sacrifice is showing vulnerability. Showing that 2 humans died to accomplish this mission will make other species think that humans are fragile and easily broken." "I know," Harrison said again. "I calculated that same probability, but I do not care, and Lisa died. Their deaths should not be hidden away as if they were shameful. Their deaths created something important. Their deaths saved lives, and other humans need to know that sacrifice can mean something. That sacrifice can matter. Understood. Still did not think like a human, but was beginning to understand how humans thought. I will add my statement to your message, said. I will inform the collective that a commander has felt dread in the presence of human courage. I will tell them that I have experienced something that our species has never experienced. I will tell them that humans are not weak. I will tell them that humans are stronger than we believed because they understand sacrifice in a way that we do not. Harrison placed his four-armed hand on shoulder. The human commander was touching thee in a gesture of gratitude. Thank you, Commander. The message was sent throughout human space and to the collective and to every species in the known galaxy. Within days, the response began. Other human commanders requested the weapon design. Commanders requested clarification about statement. Other species began asking about the humans and their capacity for sacrifice. The collective did something that had never been done before. The leadership asked to remain as a permanent liaison, not because had calculated that it was the logical choice, but because they wanted to understand what a commander had experienced in the presence of human sacrifice. Brooks did not die. His body survived the radiation exposure, though his recovery was slow and painful. He survived because the human medical team understood something that many species did not understand. They understood that sometimes people deserve to be saved. Survived, but his body would never be the same. The radiation damage was permanent. The human engineer would spend the rest of his life in pain and with limited function in his arms, but was alive. And the humans honored his survival because he had made the choice to die and had received the gift of continuing to live. Lisa Yang did not survive. The radiation damage to her body was more severe. Her heart stopped permanently 3 days after the weapon was fired, but Lisa Yang's name was known throughout human space. Schools were named after her. Memorial scholarships were created in her name. Young engineers who studied weapon design spoke her name with reverence. Doctor worked with on the recovery process. The old scientist had lost a colleague and a friend, but she had gained something else. She had gained the knowledge that sacrifice could create purpose. She had gained the understanding that death could have meaning in human culture. Visited the memorial in the station's central plaza every day for 2 weeks. On the 15th day, brought something to place at the memorial. The commander set an artifact at the base of the memorial. It was a stone from the. It was marked with script that translated to human language as, "Here stands the evidence of what I felt and what I learned." Harrison found standing in front of the memorial. "This is significant," Harrison said. "Do not leave artifacts at human memorials." "No," said. "We do not. But I am no longer following only the traditions of my species. I am following the understanding that I gained here. I am following the knowledge that sacrifice and courage and the willingness to choose death rather than abandon your team is the highest form of strength." Harrison looked at the memorial. He read the names of Brooks and Lisa Yang. He read the script. He understood that something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. The Void Collective would continue to threaten. The war would continue. Humans would die and so would members of other species. But something was different now. Something had been proven. Something had been understood. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy based on technology or tactical advantage. But humans were the strongest species in the galaxy because they had learned that some things were more important than survival. And they had learned to choose those things anyway. Return to the command center. The commander would spend the next phase of the war working beside humans, would learn more about them, would help them build more weapons, would help them fight against the Void Collective. And every time made a decision or gave an order or worked through a strategic problem, would remember the feeling of dread that had come in the moment of watching Brooks and Lisa Yang choose to die so that others could live. That feeling had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had shown the universe what strength really meant, and a commander with 40 years of service based on logic and calculation had felt that strength in the deepest part of what they had always believed was an empty space where emotion should not exist. Had felt dread, and through that dread had found something that no had ever found before, had found respect for another species. Not the cold respect of recognizing tactical value, but the deep respect of understanding what made a species worth protecting and worth learning from. The story of Brooks and Lisa Yang would be remembered, but the real story was the story of what their sacrifice had taught a commander about the nature of true strength.